So, PayPal and the Kingdom of Ansteorra. I am Honorable Lady Fastrada the Furious. I'm your Ansteorra PayPal deputy. That means I am a deputy to the Kingdom Exchequer. Gwen Frury, who many of you have been listening to for a couple hours, teaching the previous classes. My emergency replacement is our former PayPal deputy, which is Honorable Lady Francesca DeLuca. I will also start with, if you are interested in being a deputy to this office and whether or not you intend to take over the office in the future, which my warrant is up later this year, please let me know. We are looking at trying to get a deputy within each region so that there's a representative of each region that can help, especially when event season is at its peak and several events are open and may need the attention of more than one person to get timely responses and actions. The benefit of PayPal, it reduces the need for cash at your gate. You can usually start off with much smaller seed money. I have noticed a trend towards at least a third for most events of your registrations come through PayPal pre-registration. So you can reduce your lines by 30% generally at your gate. More, especially with groups that require people to pre-register in order to reserve feasts, then they will sometimes often have up to 95% of their registrations for the event happen electronically through pre-registration. In that way, it also enables the pre-purchase of feasts, which helps your feast stewards in food planning. A gate sheet for pre-registered people is created for you, where all you have to do is kind of verify their membership, possibly get them to sign a waiver, and just initial that they've checked in. So it speeds up your gate process. To set up the event, you would go to the Kingdom Exchequer site at ansteorra.org, go under Exchequer and under Event Reports, and click on PayPal Request. Instructions are in the main body to the left of that page as to what you should have ready, the information you should have ready when it comes time to actually fill out the form. The form is on the right side of the page, and you just click on it and start scrolling down and filling it out. If for some reason you can't get that to work, you can still find the PayPal request form checklist, which also includes the actual link for requesting setup at ansteorra.org in the library. Just search under PayPal. The checklist is a reference for all the information you're going to need to provide on the request form. I can't build your request form off of that form. That's for your use. You actually have to go into the link and open the Google form, response form, to request PayPal. And again, that link is at the top of that checklist form. This is what that form looks like. If you go directly and start filling out the form on the website, you won't see this. It'll be like in paragraph form on the left as to what information you need. But the link here up on the upper left also still works and takes you to that form. Pre-registration, your close date, it tells you there in red letters. It should be 8 to 10 days prior to the event, and your pre-registration cannot close on a Saturday or Sunday. The reason being, we need enough time to process invoices, which people are allowed 3 days to pay. PayPal also takes a certain amount of time on its own to update its data and information so that I can run my reports for each event. And then also there are communications and approvals that have to happen before I can make any kind of transfer of funds or send your group's exchequer their official PayPal report. So that is why we have to take a few days so that we can get all that information plus date sheets plus possibly a checkout to you as soon as possible. Once your form's submitted and a copy of your official event ad has been provided, oftentimes people mark yes on that form and then they forget to send it. I really do need to have that before I can proceed because I have to verify that all the numbers that you've put on the request form match what is on your official event ad that gets posted on your website or event pages. Once I've gotten that, I send an email out to both your Exchequer and your Seneschal getting approval about the PayPal fees. And generally speaking, the PayPal fees will match up here. Once in a while, your number may be off by a few cents, but that's because PayPal rounds up, I guess, in their favor. But pay attention to the number of people that are being registered. And then, like I said, if the numbers seem to be down in your favor, that's because PayPal rounds up for themselves. But it generally doesn't happen, or it may be a couple cents different than what your math might come up with. After approval is received from your Seneschal and your Exchequer, and if for some reason one of those officers is unable to respond, you will need to get another member of your financial committee, preferably one that has an Ansteorra.org address, to respond instead. If there are issues like that where you know your Exchequer or your Seneschal is out of pocket, unavailable, please communicate with me and or the Kingdom Exchequer so that we know to expect a different approval response. The link for your event will also be sent to the Kingdom Calendar Deputy by me, so you don't have to worry about that. And then the link to your event sign up response form will be made available to your gate coordinator, the Exchequer, sometimes those are one and the same, and the Seneschal. This allows your group key people to view how many people are pre-registering. In the interim, since it is a live form, you will see as people put in their requests. Also, if you want another person, say your autocrat, and they are neither your Seneschal nor your Exchequer or your gate coordinator, you want them also to have access, request for that access has to come from the Seneschal or Exchequer from their official office address, requesting me to add them to gain that access. And the reason being is there is sensitive personal information, mainly emails and mundane names on those forms. And so we need to be sure that those people are approved, that they're going to be allowed to view that. Once your link's been sent to you, it's live. It is your responsibility to share it with your populace. I'm not allowed to go in and promote your event and post your links. That has to be done by your people in your group that have the link. As submissions for pre-registration come in, they're automatically recorded on an Excel worksheet. Invoices are generally generated and can be received by the client within 48 hours of them submitting. There are exceptions, of course, when it's peak season and there's just a lot of invoices coming in. And obviously, too, if there's ever any technology issues happening, and I will try and communicate that with each group if that is happening. Payment is due within 72 hours of an invoice and can be made with PayPal, Venmo, debit, or credit cards. I do sometimes, when there is plenty of time before that event ends, I may give another day or two grace period to people and send them extra reminders. But when there are time constraints, I am not able to do that, and I'll have to be very strict about the 72 hours payment period before I cancel. Comps, we can't accurately screen pre-registration requests for comps from a list. If it's a long list, especially, I mean, there have been times when someone says, hey, can we be sure we comp this person and this person? You know, there's 2 or 3 people, or you just say the Crown, or that's easy enough to kind of look out for. But for the most part, it's just not possible when it's that busy to catch every name that you want comped when they start pre-registering, especially since a lot of people will pre-register for multiple events around the same time, and having to keep track of which one of the events they've pre-registered for they're being comped. So it just makes it very complicated. Per society law, non-members cannot be comped. One of the workarounds to that is sometimes there are groups that want students comped or champions comped. I have one group, for instance, that they don't completely comp their non-members, their students, but what they do is they just charge them $1, plus they also have to be invoiced for the $10 NMR fee. So they will get an invoice for $11 for an event as opposed to the full amount, which would have been including NMR fees. There are ways to also handle comps, such as an event that has specific people who are going to be given a comp for their event registration, but still require or still want to reserve for feast. We can customize the form to add a specific question. For instance, if you're comping teachers, we can ask if they are a confirmed teacher on the schedule for this event. And if so, then I'll know that they're supposed to be comped. But this can only be done if they are also pre-registering someone else or they're registering for feast. I cannot send out invoices for zero amounts. The form response worksheet's a living document. Like I said, your Seneschal Exchequer and your pre-registration person are given viewing access. It's a repost of the actual registration requests, and the registration and feast amounts and the invoice number. So your first 3 or 4 columns are the only thing that I add data to. Everything to the right of that is automatically generated from that person's request submittal. Unpaid or canceled invoices are moved to the second page or a separate sheet, a second sheet on that same spreadsheet, so that you can also see people who have tried to pre-register, didn't pay, and then were moved there. Because I'm sure some of y'all will get contacted by clients or guests asking, hey, I tried to pre-register and I haven't seen it, or I don't know what happened. You can also go in and look at it and say, oh yeah, no, I see they invoiced you, but they canceled it because it wasn't paid. Also, anything that is client canceled, I also put there, and I'll usually write in the little notation that it was canceled by the client, such as, you know, they're sick and they've changed their mind, they can't go to the event, etc. This is what the form generally looks like when you go in to check on it. Like I said, the first 3 columns are usually amounts. The amount is the event registration fee. Feast, obviously, if they register for feast. Other can sometimes be, sometimes groups will have cabin or bed space up for reservation. War of the Rams, for instance, uses electricity fees for their merchants, and I generally record that there. Invoice is the invoice number that they were issued through PayPal. And then all the information to the right of that is information they entered on their original request form. Once in a while, we do have to, if you'll notice the little area that's been highlighted there with the perforated marks, this is just a for instance. Sometimes people have said, hey, how come our invoice numbers are out of order, or there's invoice numbers missing? You have to realize that sometimes I have to skip people because maybe I have a question on the information that they input. For instance, like this, the 2 legal names have the same last name. They came in back to back, and their email addresses are similar, but not the same. So sometimes I'll reach out to the first person that I received and ask, hey, was this intended to be together and on one invoice? You know, and until I get that response back, I don't proceed with the invoice yet. So I'll skip them and move on. And so that's when you'll see the next sequential number. Also, sometimes you'll see missing numbers like between 1003 and 1009. That's because I probably only had registrations for that day through that 1003 invoice, and then went to another event and started invoicing there. So PayPal issues the invoice numbers, I don't, and they're in the order that I request them, and that's going to be done in the order that I receive requests and actually address each event. Again, pre-registrations should close 8 to 10 days before the event. And when I say the event, that means whatever day you are opening gate. If that's on a Friday at 5 p.m., then it has to be 8 to 10 days before that Friday. It can't close on a Saturday or Sunday. Like I said, clearing invoices, running reports, making the gate sheets, transferring PayPal funds, that's a process that takes a few days. 2 to 3 days before your event, the Exchequer and gate coordinator will receive a copy of your pre-registration's gate sheet. The gate sheet should be printed and provided to gate staff. It might be necessary to set your printer to realign to put all the columns on one page. At this time, just a note, we are having to build the gate sheet by hand at this time, so bear with us if something doesn't quite look right. I have just recently redid it to where now we are including the column all the way on the left. It's not on this page, on this picture, but row numbers so that you can more easily see how many people you have on your pre-registration sheet. Also, make note, I've had a few Exchequers or gate coordinators who've decided to revise what the gate sheet looks like, and sometimes things get dropped and stuff. So be very careful when you're doing that. I understand, I know you want to do it so that it looks different or maybe easier to read for your people. I don't know, but you have to be really cautious that when you're changing this form, you might accidentally drop people's names or information, especially in page breaks, things like that. For closing your event, 2 days after all your invoices clear, the Exchequer will receive a PayPal report. This shows all the invoices paid, your gross invoice, PayPal fees, and the net amount to be remitted to your group. A check for the net monies brought in through PayPal will be mailed or sometimes hand delivered to the hosting group's Exchequer by the Kingdom Exchequer. This is a courtesy if it just happens to be something they can plan for and it's convenient. Otherwise, you will be receiving it by mail. Refunds from the PayPal account is prohibited by society law. Refunds must be requested from the hosting group's Exchequer in accordance with that group's financial policy. Any refunds granted will be minus the PayPal fees. This is what the PayPal activity reports look like, more or less. Generally, the amounts at the bottom, I usually move the words gross fee and net down to the bottom and highlight it in yellow so it's easy to see. But that amount on the right that's circled, that $297.18, that is your net amount, and that is what your check should be for. Of course, no, I think if you're doing a Kingdom event, you still get that amount, and then the split that you make happens after the fact. So you should be seeing the net amount sent to your group for your event. After your event, please do not print that PayPal report. It's really, really many pages wide. I've tried it once before a long time ago before they told me not to, and yeah, it goes on and on and on. Use the amounts on this report for your event report. Yep, pre-registrations go on your event report just like they walked in and paid at the gate, the NMR as well. It's going to be on the right-hand side of your event report. That's all your prepaid site, your prepaid NMR, your prepaid fees, any other fees, and then your total prepaid income goes in the bottom right. Other fees can also be donations. If you get a donation, for instance, it doesn't happen often, but once in a while, someone will say, I'm canceling my reservation. I'm not going to go. Can I just donate that amount? If they tell you ahead of time before the event, yes, you can show it as a donation instead of as an attended registrant. Otherwise, after the fact at your event, if someone hasn't told us ahead of time that they want it shown as a donation, then you just show them, even if they don't come to the event, you still show them as an attending registrant because they paid. If you need to contact me, you just go email payments@treasurer.ansteorra.org. And sometimes you will see some PayPal communications that come from our old Ansteorra events at gmail.com address. That is not the address to use to contact me. It's not checked that often, and it gets a lot of little insignificant PayPal notices over and over and over. So it's really hard to sift through all those to find important emails. So any business really should come through the payments@treasurer.ansteorra.org email. Official requests to make changes on your forms, your request forms, or giving access to those request forms must be made by email to me, originating from an ansteorra.org address of the Seneschal or Exchequer. I can be found on Facebook Messenger under Rita Prevo Estrada. If you need a quicker response, just asking for some information. I'm also available at text at this number at 713-444-2934. It's the best between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. I do stay up later than that, but generally I'm working on invoicing at that time. So, questions? Let's see, let me go ahead and unshare for now, and then we can just answer any questions and discuss stuff. Okay, a couple of quick notes just to reiterate. Let me see. All right, so right now everyone's trying to get in their end of the year stuff, and just so that you know, to be in good standing, you have to have your end of the year reports in, and then of course monthly as it comes and goes, your regional exchequers will communicate with you when you're having issues, you're being delinquent, and you're not going to be considered in good standing from that point forward. That should happen. Your regionals will let me know, and those groups who are not in good standing, their request for PayPal setup will be denied. It is a privilege to be able to do the pre-registrations process, the electronic registration. So please keep your groups in good standing. The requester for PayPal setup should keep their Exchequer and Seneschal if you're not the Exchequer. And if you are, then keep your Seneschal in the loop that you're about to do the PayPal request, because one of the biggest holdups we have with getting you started is getting those response emails back for approving PayPal fees. So sometimes we're just, or also getting your event ad. So if you communicate with the people who provide those things that, hey, tomorrow I'm submitting this, keep an eye on your emails. The faster everyone responds, the faster I can get that PayPal registration link online and live and ready to go and put on the Kingdom calendar. Your pre-registration request form can be customized. For instance, you do want to set up a special fee for students, or you want to rent cabins, or you want to comp a specific group of people that you can actually, what do you call it? Weed out, I forget the right word, that you can specify through a question on the form. We can do that, but again, that has to happen in advance. It cannot happen after I've already opened a registration link. Because if people have already registered and they've paid, I cannot change their invoices. I can't go back and refund them or anything like that. So you have to have your ducks in a row and ready, everything you want to happen on that request form before I take it live.
Okay, Frustrada, Emma's got a question.
Okay.
Just to clarify, Frustrada, if they are members and they're doing, say, Entourage, and we planned on comping them, we have to charge them something, even if it's $1, or the site fee cannot be zero. Is that what you're
If
saying?
they are not a member, they have to pay the $10 fee.
Okay, but
Right.
they don't have to pay anything for site, like,
Well, that I am not absolutely certain. The way it was explained to me is they can't be free.
okay,
You know, that's a privilege, or that comes as part of your membership privileges, that if you can be granted comps
Well,
for your
that's the thing is
participation. But
that
that's why some groups have just gone to, we charge them $1. That is, they're not getting in free, but also because they're not a member, they do still have to pay that $10 NMR.
yeah, Fastrada, like I say, basically society policy has just said you can comp non-members, but they still have to pay the $10 fee.
Right,
So they can be comped fully. They just need to pay the $10.
right. And I do, and I have done that before, but I wasn't absolutely certain if that dollar amount was needed or not.
Nope.
So, okay, great.
What I'm
But yes, I do
understanding,
have the ability to
but here's the thing.
invoice someone for an NMR fee.
Honestly, I think because of that NMR fee is a flat $10. We will not be deducting the fees out of that when you pay that out to NMR. So yeah, you're better off going with the policy of throwing on $1 to cover additional fees.
Right.
So you know, because I think it's like 35 cents per transaction or some number like that.
Yeah.
You know,
It's almost like paying those PayPal fees for a non-existent person because they've been comped, but it's still coming out of your net, because we can't take it out of NMR fees. So it's coming out of your net if we're comping someone and not charging them something to cover those PayPal fees.
Yeah.
So thank you for clarifying that. I knew there was a reason why they were doing it
The
with
dollar.
the $1.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically best policy to go with is like you're comping them, but you know, they got to pay $11. They're like, why $11? It's like, because you're paying for the processing fees.
Right.
$10 in NMR and $1 in processing fees, and call it that.
Yeah. So that you don't have to do that, but that is like I said, a smart way to do it so that it's not all coming out of your net, especially if you're comping several people and several of them are non-members. So, one last thing I wanted to kind of reiterate. Vera, do you have a question?
I think she's talking or she's texting or something.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure she was waving. Okay. One thing I will ask all of you, because I know each of you as an Exchequer and or a seneschal or event coordinator have probably had guests contact you and say, hey, I haven't been invoiced, or why did I, not see an invoice yet on this or that. Please remind them to check in to their PayPal account. That I am pretty good of getting everyone an invoice within 48 hours. For whatever reason, and I don't have an answer for you, sometimes PayPal will not send the invoice notification to the email I input that you provided. It will send it to another one of your emails. And once in a while, it doesn't send it anywhere for whatever reason to some customers. Please log into your PayPal accounts and check for your invoices there. I guarantee you they will be there. And if you open your invoice fully, you will even see the dates of everything when it was submitted. If you've received reminders, everything will be there. So before they contact you, then you contact someone else, and then they contact me, and then I have to check and backtrack and contact back down the line. If you'll just tell them, first try logging into your PayPal account and look for the invoice there. I know it's a hassle, but I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for you as to why PayPal sometimes does that or fails to send notifications, or if it goes to a junk or spam folder or something. And that's about it I have for me, unless you have any other questions or need any other clarifications.
In the chat, I had put a request that you duplicate the row number column at the beginning and end of each row.
Okay.
It makes checking in and putting the initials
Yeah.
that you have validated the person
Yeah.
so much easier if you can.
Just duplicate
Yeah.
the row numbers there. Yeah, I can do that. Okay. If there's nothing else. That's all for me. I do apologize if I went through too quickly on anything, but most of you have done this already. And those of you who haven't much, or just reach out anytime you have a question. I'm really available and happy to assist and answer your questions or walk you through the process.
By the way, your audio is coming through really choppy.
Ooh. Sorry about that.
A lot of background buzz when your mic is on. And then it goes away and then it comes back and it goes away and it comes back again.
Okay. I'm wondering if any of that had anything to do with me being plugged into my charging. I'm on an iPad Pro, so the speakers
Probably.
aren't quite the same. Yeah.
They have a tendency to do that when they're.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
So any other questions? Wish lists, winning a lottery, fortune telling.
Well, like I put in the chat, insert the obligatory request for this to not have to be a manual process. We greatly appreciate the efforts that our PayPal deputies do, but this is a significant labor that should not need to be done. It should be able to have invoices directly generated from a web page. You instantly pay, and we're done. It would stop people mostly sending in duplicate registrations, which has been issues in the past, especially when people reverse their names on the form. That was always fun. The other thing that we have done in Finnegath, and I have done personally, if I was not able to attend and I had pre-registered, I have transferred my prepaid registration to somebody else rather than go through the hassles of dealing with a refund. We just update the form that we collect, where we grab the membership info and or validation and replace the name with the new person who we transferred it to.
Yeah, and that's easy enough to do as long as there's an email coming from that person to my office address giving me authorization to do that. The only time you run into a hitch, and they have to understand, is if you registered as a member and the person you transferred it to is not a member, they're still going to have to pay that $10 NMR fee when they check in.
Correct.
Or submit a request for to be charged the NMR fees.
Or if they claim to be a member but can't validate it at the gate.
That happens. Yeah.
There is that is one of the things that gate coordinators run into, and is one of the most confusing things. How would a person handle that at the gate? And the answer is, on the gate form, you would basically put down a negative for a member and a positive for the non-member, and the total for the transaction ends up being $10. And so your gate counts stay the same, but you've collected the extra $10.
Right, which also means that they still have to be entered on your paper gate form as someone coming in and paying for NMR fees, which
Right.
negates them having pre-registered. But at the same time, that's also the time that I take advantage and let the folks know. That's why it's important to have your proof of membership in a screenshot and easy to access form. Verify it before the event. Come prepared, basically, because you don't always have a Wi-Fi signal where you go, etc. So it's kind of a learning thing for some folks. It's like, yeah, come prepared, because then you're gonna have to go through the hassle of going to the other person and registering in anyway just to pay your NMR so that they have it on the books.
Right, but we also don't want to have it count as an additional body through the door, because that messes up the.
Right, and that's why it's important to have notations, you know, on your gate sheets, and that's why you have your separate columns for the type of payment they made. You know, so I mean, trust me, if your gate fees are anything but $10 and they see a $10 amount, they're going to know something's up. But it's your gate workers have to be educated that when something comes up unusual, you don't know the answer, ask. And secondly, if you know the answer and you had to do something different, you make a notation on your gate sheets. And lots of stuff comes up. We can't cover everything that might happen. I mean, I've had to make all kinds of notations on gate sheets in the past. And as far as having PayPal originate from a web link where people just basically build their own invoice, I would love that. But I know one of the things that comes back is that, but then where's the oversight on that, and how do you address, you know, whether or not, you know, what if someone has a complaint that it's a PayPal issue? Someone still has to research that. Someone still has to verify, you know, their invoice, where the mistake was made. It's, like I said, I would love to have it much more automated.
There would still be a definite need for a coordinator who has control over the web account for the Kingdom side of PayPal. But the whole manual creation and linking of multiple request forms into a single invoice would be eliminated. And that I'm estimating is 85+% of the effort that you put into the office. And none of it is really needed, because this is an administrative decision that was made at society level that says we have to do it this way. And it completely boggles my mind why we have to go down that particular path.
Right.
So.
Yeah. And I know that they were discussing some other things, not event registrations, but other ways to electronically submit funds to Kingdom, like donations and stuff. And I'm thinking if that progresses and more things are being made available, like an instant button that a person can go in and create their own invoice and make their own payments and, you know, handle it all on their side, we might move towards something like that where pre-registration will be the same. Because I agree, it takes a lot of time and effort, and it's, at this point, I'm looking for deputies because we've grown so much. Our Kingdom calendar is packed with events. And in your peak seasons, I might have 10, 11, 12 events open at one time. And if that's happening in November, when I also have War of the Rams open, we're talking hours of invoicing, you know,
Right.
at least 2 hours a day of just making sure all the invoices are getting out. So I agree.
A heavier ask than even, you know, than Dome's Day and some of the other heavy positions that we have around the Kingdom. And yeah. Where are we at? And this is probably more for Grenfrey or Sean. Where are we at with being able to handle electronic payments at the gate?
Still trying to get a solid answer on them. They're so focused on this new form that these new policies and procedures, you know, is just kind of taking a back seat, and it's kind of frustrating because I am aware that you want to do that. I understand and appreciate that, but there's issues with that because right now they, you know, we only use PayPal for payments, and then we get into the entire issue of access and reporting and blah 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 blah. It goes down the rabbit hole. So yeah, I think they're trying to look at you know, something else to be used for that. And I thought I saw something at one point, but it has since like disappeared into the rabbit hole of all the paperwork I have to look at. So
Gulf Wars is supposed to be the test pit for that.
yeah.
Yeah. It's been like that for a couple of years now. For one reason or another, it keeps getting pushed back or put on the back burner. Other things take precedent.
For over,
Yeah, and again, also a lot depends on corporate because they like a lot of things to be in alignment with what they do and how they do things, and so it sometimes limits us.
the credit card directly.
Sorry?
They can accept the credit card directly.
You're not wrong, and I think what it is right now is they're using the wars like Penzic and Gulf Wars to test out on a smaller scale,
Not Penzic.
doing all of this at the gate.
They're using them as test, the beta sites for this thing.
They're not doing that for Penzic. The SCA has zero involvement in gate at Penzic other than data entry. All
Yes.
funds are going to Grippers.
But at Penzic, the deputies and all of that, instead of being issued checks for their budgets, were given credit cards.
Yes, but the specific of Gulf War is being used to test electronic payments at the gate. That is, I would agree that is a thing. But Penzic has been accepting electronic payments at the gate for over a decade because all payments at the gate at Penzic for at least the past 30 to 40 years go directly to the Coopers, and then the Coopers divvy up money to the SCA.
But yeah, Penzic's being used for the debit cards. They were the first place to use the debit.
Yeah.
And then this year, Gulf gets debit cards.
Yeah, Penzic was a pain in the butt to deal with for reimbursements back when I had to handle it back at Penzic 30. Having to write those checks. But that's also back in the day when there were no financial policies for interkingdom wars. And I inherited that as a single signer account. Yeah, it was fun.
Okay. Yep. There's a lot of things that our common sense tells us would make things so much easier and simpler, but I'm sure with everything new, there's always stuff that we don't see that can come up in the long run as well. So I think they're just acting very cautiously.
The online donation system that Bryn Glad has been testing.
Zeffy.
Say again?
Zeffy.
Yeah, Zeffy. Is there any movement on opening it up to additional groups?
I'm going to check on that because I could have swore, like I said, I swore to God I thought I saw that somewhere, but I cannot find it again. So I will put that on my list of additional questions to follow up on with society. Yeah, they're getting a nice long email because I've got about 20 things here.
What? They need it.
Yeah.
Especially this year with all the big changes that they're trying to make.
Okay.
I know we can do it via PayPal, but again, that's, the way to do it via PayPal is, this, that, and the other thing. So it's just one of those things.
Yeah. I know the other issue I think with accepting electronic payments at gate is not every group is going to have the ability to do that well, based on whether or not they have the equipment needed, the interfacing equipment needed to do that, or being able to use locations and sites where they have good service, good cell service or Wi-Fi service. There are some places where it's just so spotty, the cell service is spotty too, that unless you have a special way of doing that, the special equipment,
Well,
your portable,
the equipment, the Wi-Fi signal, having the be able to recharge the equipment, charge it up. just electronics in general, just dealing with them depending on the weather. So yeah, there's so many factors that it's just like that come into play. And yeah, I agree. It'd be nice if you could walk up to gate and go, or we could use something that where you can pay via your credit card or, via QR code. Because how many people just, QR code their phone and go pay and they're done.
Right. And to limit all events, because some events have little to no service, is counterproductive.
Yeah, it is.
Today, the equipment required at this point is now down to just a modern mobile phone. Tap to pay is now available on just about every mobile phone device, and it can be set up to receive tap to pay payments at the phone with the correct app. So there's a lot less hardware required to be able to do card payments these days. It really comes down to the security needed so that you could say, as the kingdom, you are delegating to the Exchequer of Finningoth, who is the manager of the Finningoth store, that they can have charges for War of Ages, adult member, War of Ages, adult non-member, etc., and be able to sell those things at the gate for $25 and $35. Run it up and accept a payment and record it on the form. That person that is being delegated to would be able to have local employees who could log in with a device, but the manager and local employees would not be able to do anything other than enter a transaction. They wouldn't be able to do transfers out of the scrape account and stuff like that.
Okay, so like I say, I mean, Heralder, I understand what you're saying, and I agree. I understand what your point is, but because of what you're talking about is you're talking about a lot of fingers getting their hands on the pot. And the thing with the society, and given that we're talking about money, we try to limit how many hands get their, how many fingers end up in the pot. And that's the problem, is ending up with too many people, having access to things because of that. And this is, that I'm like, I understand it. I love it. But like, it's just how many people do you give access to? And given the transient nature of our groups, people are in for 2 years max, it just becomes an ongoing rolling problem of giving people access and all that. Because Frustrada can tell you how much fun she's had just dealing with her the account, the one PayPal account, and any issues she has with it, because it's registered to one specific person's name. So, like I said, we have all these issues, and like I said, they are trying to figure out answers that will work and manage the financial aspect appropriately for oversight and double check and things like that. So like I said, I understand there are ways to do it, but you've got to understand you're looking at it from one group's perspective. Society is looking at it as all of the groups in all of the SCA being able to do this, and how can we protect the society from malfeasance?